We're very encouraged. But that's the reason we're running the phase 2 placebo-controlled trial. That is powered for statistical significance. And so in end of Q3, beginning of Q4, we expect a readout in that trial. And if the results are anything like this, it's an absolute home run for patients. There's no drug available that would provide that kind of benefit to those patients.
Welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Ivor Elrifi. He is the CEO of Tiziana Life Sciences. And Ivor, it's great to see you again. How are you?
Good, Steve. How are you? Great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you as well. Excited about today's news out that you've got some expanded data for us on this study that you're doing specifically here with MS patients. So let's remind everyone a little bit about the study that's going on and what it's trying to do.
Sure. So we currently have a phase 2A placebo-controlled study, which we believe will read out at the end of this year, by the end of this year. But the data that we announced today relates to our first study, an expanded access study. And we've now had some of those patients on drug as long as 3 years. So remember, our drug is Foralumab, and it reduces brain inflammation. And what we have shown, what we previously shown, is that you get a very significant reduction in neuroinflammation when you dose patients with Foralumab. What this data shows is that although it's a small number of patients, so it's not statistically significant, that the trend is that that reduction in neuroinflammation correlates or translates to an actual clinical improvement. And we showed two graphs in the press release today. One is comparing our drug's performance to the performance of Sanofi's tolebrutinib drug, which was not allowed by the FDA in December. And we overlaid our data on top of a published graph of Sanofi's tolebrutinib data. And the trend is that our drug performs significantly better. That's a trend. Both on EDSS events, so disability events, and on improvement in fatigue, so feeling less fatigued, which is a hallmark of the disease.
Yeah, Ivor, maybe you can go a touch deeper on that about the fatigue part of it, because that showed to the end. There was obviously in this, it showed no safety concerns whatsoever, but the fatigue part of it I thought was really interesting. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yes. So fatigue is a hallmark of secondary progressive MS and relapsing remitting for that matter. But we're treating secondary progressive, for which is an unmet need. And patients feel fatigued. If you can improve their reduce their fatigue, it's really beneficial for their quality of life. And there's a score called MFIS. It's a numerical calculation. And again, we have a very small number of patients in that expanded access study, so it's not statistically significant. But
Right.
when you look at what's considered a meaningful improvement in MFIS score or meaningful worsening in MFIS score, most of our patients had an improvement above that threshold for clinically significant improvement, and only a few had a reduction or worsening in their score. So it's very encouraging.
Okay. You mentioned that statistically, you sort of you can't use it, so to speak, because it has to be at a certain number. But saying that, it does give you more, I guess, pieces of the puzzle that you're trying to solve. And that's
Absolutely.
significant in itself.
Absolutely. It's clearly going in the right direction. I mean,
Yeah.
if the data had been the exact opposite, we would have been discouraged. We're very encouraged. But that's the reason we're running the phase 2 placebo-controlled trial. That is powered for statistical significance. And so in end of Q3, beginning of Q4, we expect a readout in that trial. And if the results are anything like this, it's an absolute home run for patients. There's no drug available that would provide that kind of benefit to those patients.
Man, Ivor, really good to get a quick update on this from you. Appreciate the time, and there's so much more to talk about in the future, as you mentioned, especially as we get into Q2 and Q3 when all this comes out. So look forward to chatting then. But again, appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
All right, there's Ivor Elrifi, the CEO of Tiziana Life Sciences.